I thought I knew my wife, Sarah. For 8 years, we built a life together. She was the kind of woman you'd be proud to call your partner. Smart, beautiful, and someone who could light up any room. But looking back now, I see that I missed the signs. All of them. It wasn't just Sarah and me, though. From the moment we got serious, there was always a third person in our marriage, Amanda. Amanda was Sarah's best friend. They had been inseparable since college, and at first, I thought it was sweet. I mean, who wouldn't want their wife to have a close, supportive friend? Amanda was bubbly, fun, and a little too sarcastic for my taste, but I figured that's just how some friendships are. The three of us hung out all the time in the early days. Amanda was there for game nights, barbecues, even vacations. At first, I didn't mind. Hell, I even enjoyed her company sometimes. She was the type to tell ridiculous stories that had everyone laughing until their sides hurt. But over time, Amanda's constant presence became intrusive. She started showing up uninvited. She dropped by on weekends when Sarah and I had plans, plopping herself on the couch like she owned the place. Sarah would laugh it off, saying, "It's just Amanda. She's like family." It wasn't just the drop-ins, though. Amanda had a way of excluding me, even when I was in the same room. They had these inside jokes that made me feel like an outsider in my own home. They'd whisper to each other, giggling like schoolgirls, and when I'd ask what was so funny, they'd just say, "Oh, it's nothing." I brushed it off at first. That was my first mistake. As the years went on, Amanda became an even bigger part of our lives. Whenever I suggested a date night or a weekend getaway, Sarah would ask, "Can Amanda come?" Like it was the most normal thing in the world. I wanted to say no, but every time I tried to set boundaries, Sarah would look at me like I was being unreasonable. "She's my best friend," she'd say. "You knew that when we got married." So, I let it slide. I told myself that Sarah just valued her friendship and that it didn't mean anything more than that. That was my second mistake. Things started to get weirder about a year ago. At first, it was little things. Sarah would get a text from Amanda late at night and suddenly be in a great mood, laughing at her phone. Or she'd cancel plans with me because Amanda needed to talk. I remember one night in particular. Sarah and I had been planning a quiet evening together. Takeout, a movie, just the two of us. But Amanda called, and suddenly, Sarah was putting on her coat and grabbing her keys. "Where are you going?" I asked. "Amanda's upset about something," she said. "I'll be back in a couple of hours." It was midnight. When she came back, hours later, she was still wearing Amanda's perfume. "Did she spray you with that?" I joked, half laughing but also a little annoyed. Sarah looked at me like a deer caught in headlights. Then she laughed nervously. "Oh yeah, we were testing perfumes at her place." It didn't feel like the truth, but I didn't push it. That was my third mistake. The little things started piling up after that. Sarah would spend more and more time with Amanda, often canceling plans with me to do so. At first, she had excuses. Amanda just broke up with her boyfriend, or she's feeling lonely. But after a while, the excuses stopped, and it was just assumed that if Amanda called, Sarah would drop everything to be with her. Then there was the physical closeness. I'd see them sitting together on the couch, and Amanda's hand would be resting on Sarah's leg, or Sarah would have her head on Amanda's shoulder. I told myself it was just a girl thing. That's what Sarah told me, anyway. "You're reading too much into it," she'd say with a laugh. "We've always been like this." But there was something about the way Amanda looked at Sarah, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. The final straw was when Amanda started crashing at our house. At first, it was once or twice a month, usually after a night out. Then it became every weekend. She'd take over our living room, drinking wine with Sarah, laughing like I wasn't even there. I'd try to join the conversation, but it always felt like I was interrupting something. And then came the nights when I'd wake up in the middle of the night, only to find that Sarah wasn't in bed. I'd go downstairs, and there they'd be, sitting on the couch together, talking in hushed voices. When I asked Sarah about it, she'd shrug. We just lost track of time. But it wasn't just the late nights. It was the way they looked at each other. The way Amanda always seemed to be hovering, always just a little too close. I didn't want to believe it, didn't want to admit what I was starting to suspect. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. Very, very wrong. I tried to ignore it at first. All the red flags, the late-night texts, the inside jokes, the excuses. It was easier to tell myself I was imagining things. After all, Sarah was my wife. The woman I'd built a life with. The woman I loved. But the truth has a way of creeping in, no matter how hard you try to bury it. One night, we were sitting on the couch watching TV. Sarah was scrolling through her phone, a little smile tugging at her lips. I glanced over and saw a notification pop up at the top of her screen. "Amanda, I miss you already." Sarah tilted her phone away, her smile widening as she quickly typed out a reply. I felt my stomach tighten. "Something funny?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Sarah looked up, her face perfectly innocent. "Oh, just Amanda. She's being ridiculous as usual." She set her phone down on the cushion beside her, but only for a second. The moment I turned my attention back to the TV, she picked it up again. That was when I started to really notice. Every night, it was the same thing. Sarah glued to her phone, texting Amanda like her life depended on it. I'd make small talk, try to get her to engage, but her replies were distracted, her eyes never leaving the screen. "You two sure have a lot to talk about," I said one evening, my voice tinged with sarcasm. Sarah didn't even look up. "She's going through a lot right now." It was always the same excuse. Amanda was upset. Amanda needed advice. Amanda, Amanda, Amanda. I wasn't just living with my wife anymore. I was living with her shadow, a third presence in our marriage that was always there, always watching, always pulling her attention away from me. Things escalated a couple of weeks later. Sarah was getting ready for a girls' night with Amanda. She stood in front of the mirror, spritzing on perfume, adjusting her earrings, smoothing out her dress. She looked stunning. "You're really going all out," I said, leaning against the door frame. Sarah flashed me a smile. "It's just a little fun." Amanda thought we should dress up. I wanted to believe her. Wanted to believe that this was just a harmless night out with her best friend. But something about the way she looked, like she was trying to impress someone, sent a chill through me. "Where are you guys going?" I asked. "Just a bar downtown," she said, brushing off the question. She kissed me on the cheek and grabbed her purse. "Don't wait up." I didn't, but I also didn't sleep. When Sarah came home hours later, she was practically glowing. Her cheeks were flushed, her hair slightly messy, and her lips looked like they'd been kissed. "How was your night?" I asked, sitting up as she tiptoed into the bedroom. She froze for half a second, then smiled. "Fun. Amanda says hi, by the way." I nodded, watching as she kicked off her heels and climbed into bed beside me. She didn't smell like alcohol. She smelled like Amanda's perfume. "Did Amanda spray you with that again?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. Sarah hesitated, then laughed nervously. "Yeah, we were messing around with it at the bar." I didn't press her, but that night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, every little moment from the past few months playing over and over in my head. The texts, the perfume, the way Amanda always seemed to be just a little too close. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just friendship. This wasn't just girl stuff or inside jokes. Something else was going on. The next morning, I decided to test her. While Sarah was in the shower, I grabbed her phone. It was locked, of course, but I wasn't trying to snoop yet. Instead, I waited until she got out and handed it to her casually. "Your phone was buzzing earlier," I said. Sarah froze. For just a second, her hand faltered as she took it from me. "Oh, thanks," she said, her voice a little too cheerful. She glanced at the screen, and I saw her face relax when she saw the notifications. Then, without another word, she set her phone on the counter and went back to brushing her hair. But I had seen enough. The hesitation, the relief, the way she had checked to make sure her little secrets hadn't been exposed. Sarah wasn't just acting strange anymore. She was hiding something. I spent the rest of the day watching her. Every time her phone buzzed, she'd glance at it quickly, her fingers flying across the screen, and every time I walked into the room, she'd lock it and set it face down. That night, she went out again. Another girls' night with Amanda. Another kiss on the cheek and a "don't wait up." And once again, I didn't sleep. When she came home this time, I was waiting for her in the living room. "How was it?" I asked, My voice calm. She blinked, surprised to see me awake. Good. We just hung out and talked. That's nice, I said. You two seem to spend a lot of time together lately. She shrugged. Well, she's my best friend. You know that. I nodded, letting the silence hang between us. Letting her think I was just tired, just curious. But deep down, I was already making a plan. Because Sarah might think she was clever. She might think she could pull this off without me noticing. But she was wrong. I couldn't pretend anymore. The late nights, the whispered conversations, the constant texting. Sarah wasn't just acting strange. She was hiding something, and I wasn't going to sit around waiting for her to drop the bomb on me. One night, the opportunity finally came. Sarah had passed out on the couch after too much wine, her phone still in her hand. I grabbed it, the screen still unlocked, and opened her messages. At the top of her conversations, Amanda. I didn't hesitate. Amanda, I miss you so much. When can we do that again? Sarah, soon. I just need to make an excuse. Amanda, it's hard not being able to touch you all the time. Sarah, I feel the same way. I kept scrolling, my stomach twisting tighter with every word. Months of messages. Flirty, emotional, even explicit at times. They'd been sneaking around for half a year, lying to me, laughing behind my back. But it got worse when I opened her photos. There they were, pictures of the two of them cuddling on the couch, holding hands, laughing. One of Amanda kissing Sarah on the cheek. My couch. My wife. I stared at the screen, my anger ice cold. It wasn't just an affair. It was a joke, a mockery. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I ordered a hidden camera. I needed more than texts and photos. I needed something that would make it impossible for Sarah to lie her way out of this. I set the camera up in the living room, their usual hangout spot. I didn't have to wait long. A few days later, Sarah told me she was meeting Amanda for lunch. Instead, Amanda showed up at the house while I was at work. Through the camera feed on my phone, I watched them sit on the couch, laughing, leaning closer and closer. And then Amanda kissed her. Not a friendly kiss. A long, deep kiss that left no room for doubt. I stopped the feed. I had enough. The texts, the photos, the video proof. Sarah thought she could play me. She thought she could keep her little secret forever. She was wrong. And now, it was my turn. I had my proof. The texts, the photos, and now a video of Sarah and Amanda, wrapped up in each other on our couch. That should have been enough to confront her, to blow up her little secret right then and there. But I wasn't ready to let her off that easy. Sarah had spent months building this lie, sneaking around, playing me like a fool. She thought she could juggle her marriage and her affair without me ever noticing. If she wanted to build her secret life brick by brick, I was going to tear it all down. So, I kept watching. I wanted to know everything, every little detail. Every time they thought they were getting away with it, I was sitting there, capturing it all. The hidden camera became my best friend. I saw it all, Amanda coming over while I was at work, Sarah curling up next to her like a love-struck teenager, their stolen kisses and whispered conversations. But it wasn't just the physical stuff that hurt. It was what they said. One afternoon, I caught them laughing together. Amanda teasing Sarah about something I'd said at dinner the night before. "He's so clueless," Amanda said, smirking. "You don't think he suspects anything, do you?" Sarah laughed, shaking her head. "No, he'd never figure it out. Ben's too simple." Simple. That one word hit harder than any punch. I trusted her, loved her, and here she was, calling me simple, laughing at me with the woman she was cheating with. But the more I watched, the more I realized something else. Amanda wasn't just her affair partner. She was manipulating her, pulling her deeper into this mess, encouraging her to keep lying, keep sneaking around. "You don't owe him anything," Amanda said during one of their conversations. "If you're not happy, why should he be?" And Sarah just nodded, like she actually believed it. It was almost pathetic. By the time I was done gathering evidence, I didn't just have enough to confront Sarah. I had enough to burn her entire life to the ground. The first step was Amanda's boyfriend, Matt. He and I weren't close, but we'd hung out enough for me to know he was a decent guy. And from what I could tell, he had no idea what Amanda was up to. I reached out to him one evening, sending him a message. "Hey man, I think we need to talk. It's about Amanda." He responded almost immediately. "What's going on?" I told him to meet me at a bar near my house. He showed up an hour later, looking confused but curious. "What's this about?" he asked, sitting across from me. I didn't say a word. I just pulled out my phone, opened the video of Amanda and Sarah, and set it on the table in front of him. He watched in silence, his face going pale. When the video ended, he leaned back, shaking his head. She said they were just friends," he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. I let him sit with it for a moment before saying, "They've been doing this for months, lying to both of us, sneaking around behind our backs." Matt clenched his fists, his jaw tight. "That bitch?" "Yeah," I said, my tone cold. "So, what do you want to do about it?" We sat there for the next hour, plotting our revenge. Sarah and Amanda thought they were untouchable. They thought they could keep their little secret forever, laughing at us, treating us like idiots. But now, Matt and I were teaming up to make sure they'd never laugh again. It started with the confrontation. Amanda and Sarah had planned another one of their movie nights at my house that weekend. I didn't say a word about what I knew. I let Sarah think everything was normal, that her little secret was still safe. But while they were setting up their wine and snacks in the living room, Matt and I were waiting in the driveway. When the time was right, we walked in together. The look on their faces when they saw us was priceless. Sarah froze, her glass of wine halfway to her lips. Amanda went pale, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "Don't stop on our account," I said, leaning against the doorframe. Matt crossed his arms beside me, his glare locked on Amanda. "We wouldn't want to ruin your night." They didn't say anything. They just sat there, staring at us like two kids caught with their hands in the cookie jar. "Go ahead," I said, pulling out my phone. "Explain this." I hit play on the video, their affair, in full HD, playing out in front of them. Sarah's face crumpled. Amanda started stammering, trying to come up with an excuse, but Matt cut her off. "Don't bother," he snapped. "We know everything." The silence in the room was suffocating. Sarah and Amanda sat there frozen, their faces pale, their eyes darting between me and Matt like cornered animals. The video had finished playing, and now I was just waiting to see which one of them would break first. Amanda tried to speak, her voice shaky. I can explain." Matt cut her off. "Don't. Just don't." His voice was cold, sharp. "You lied to me. For months. Do you think anything you say now will make a difference?" Amanda's mouth opened, then closed again. For once, she had nothing to say. I turned my attention to Sarah. "Anything you want to add?" She shook her head, tears starting to fill her eyes. "Ben, I'm sorry." I interrupted, my voice calm but deadly. "You're sorry now? After months of lying? After sneaking around and laughing at me behind my back? You're only sorry because you got caught." She flinched at my words but didn't argue. She knew I was right. Amanda shifted uncomfortably, trying to meet Matt's eyes. "Please, Matt, it didn't mean anything." That made him laugh, a bitter, hollow sound. "Didn't mean anything? You were sneaking off to screw her every chance you got, and I'm supposed to believe it didn't mean anything?" Sarah tried again, her voice desperate. "Ben, please, can we just talk? Privately?" "No," I said, my voice sharp. "There's nothing left to talk about. You've been lying to me for months, Sarah. You betrayed me. You think I'm going to sit here and listen to excuses?" The tears started falling then, and she reached for my hand, but I stepped back. "You don't get to cry," I said coldly. "Not after what you've done." Amanda turned to Matt, her voice trembling. I love you." Matt's laugh was even colder than mine. "Love me? You call this love? Save it, Amanda. You're not even worth the argument." He turned to me, nodding. "Let's go." We walked out together, leaving them sitting there in stunned silence. I expected Sarah to show up at work the next day. I expected her to barge into my office, tears streaming, begging for a second chance, swearing she'd change. But she didn't. Instead, she went radio silent. No calls, no texts, not even an attempt to explain herself. For 2 days, I waited. Not because I wanted her back, but because I wanted to see how far she'd sink before she cracked. On the third day, it came. A knock at my door. I opened it to find Sarah standing there, her hair a mess, dark circles under her eyes, like she hadn't slept in days. She was holding a box, Amanda's box of things. "Ben," she said softly, her voice cracking. "Can we talk?" I leaned against the doorframe, crossing my arms. "What is there to talk about, Sarah? You destroyed everything." She stepped forward, clutching the box to her chest like it was a shield. "I know I screwed up, okay? I know I hurt you, but I wasn't thinking. It just happened." I laughed bitterly. "It just happened? Sarah, you don't accidentally sneak around for months, lie to my face, and screw your best friend on our couch. That doesn't just happen." She flinched but didn't argue. "I didn't mean to fall for her," she whispered, her voice barely audible. That made me pause. "You fell for her," I repeated, the words heavy. "You didn't just cheat, Sarah. You built an entire relationship behind my back." She nodded, tears streaming down her face now. "I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't mean for it to go this far." I shook my head. "But it did, Sarah. And now? You have to live with it." Her lip trembled, and she set the box down at my feet. "I ended it with Amanda. She's out of my life." "Good for you," I said flatly, "but it doesn't change anything. You can't undo what you did." She looked up at me, desperation in her eyes. "I want to fix this, Ben. I want to fix us." "There is no us anymore," I said coldly. "You made sure of that." Her shoulders sagged, and for a moment, she just stood there, staring at me, her face crumpling. Then, without another word, she turned and walked away. I didn't feel pity, not even a shred of it. Sarah had spent months plotting this betrayal, and now she was finally starting to feel the weight of her choices. But the fallout wasn't just hers. Matt called me later that week. "Amanda moved out," he said. "Tried to beg me to forgive her, but I threw her shit in garbage bags and left it on the curb." "Good," I said. "You know what's funny?" he added, his voice dark. "Turns out, Amanda didn't just screw Sarah. There's a trail of guys and girls she's cheated with over the years. I was just too blind to see it." We both laughed. Not because it was funny, but because what else could we do? "I hope they're happy together," Matt said sarcastically. "They're not," I said, smirking. "Trust me, their little fantasy world is already crumbling." And I was right. Sarah and Amanda's affair had been built on lies, and without the secrecy to hold it together, it was falling apart fast. It didn't take long for Sarah to fall apart. At first, she tried to act like she was fine, like she was moving on, like she had everything under control. But I knew better. A week after I shut the door in her face, she started calling me again. Not to apologize, not really. She'd leave long, rambling voicemails, her voice breaking halfway through. "Ben, I don't know how to do this without you. I miss you. I know I don't deserve another chance, but please, just talk to me." I never called back. Then came the texts. "Sarah, can we at least meet for coffee? Just to talk?" Me, "No. Sarah, I just want to explain." Me, "There's nothing to explain." After a while, she stopped trying. That should have been the end of it. But when people lose everything, they get desperate. And Sarah? She was losing everything. Amanda had cut her off completely. The minute Sarah told her they were done, Amanda didn't even try to fight for her. She just moved on, like their entire affair had meant nothing. The same woman Sarah had thrown away our marriage for had discarded her without a second thought. Sarah hadn't just lost me. She had lost everyone. Mutual friends stopped inviting her to things. People didn't want to be around her. No one trusted her. And the best part? People were talking. Word spread fast. Sarah and Amanda weren't just dealing with the fallout for me and Matt. They had become a joke. One night, I got a text from an old friend. "Jake, dude, Sarah just showed up at the bar alone. She looks like she's been crying for hours." I didn't even respond. A few days later, she showed up at my office. Unannounced. The receptionist called me. Your ex-wife is here. Should I tell her to leave?" I almost said yes, but something in me wanted to see her one last time. I walked out into the lobby and saw her sitting there, staring at the floor. Her once perfect hair was a mess, her makeup smudged, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. She looked small. When she looked up at me, I saw it. The regret, the realization, the weight of everything she had done. She stood up slowly. "Ben, please." I crossed my arms. "What do you want, Sarah?" Her lip trembled. I just want to talk." I let out a breath, shaking my head. "There's nothing left to talk about." Tears welled up in her eyes. "I know I screwed up. I know I hurt you. Stop." My voice was firm. "I don't need to hear it. You made your choices, Sarah. Now you have to live with them." She swallowed hard, staring at me like she wanted to say something else. Like she wanted me to tell her it was okay, that we could fix it, that I'd take her back. But I wasn't going to. She did this. She destroyed us. There was nothing left to save. So, I did the only thing left to do. I turned around and walked away. And just like that, she was gone for good. I thought that was the last I'd hear from Sarah, that after walking out of my office, she'd finally accept that she had lost, that she'd disappear, just another bad memory. I was wrong. A week later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail, but curiosity got the better of me, so I checked it. It was Sarah's mom. "Ben, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but Sarah's not doing well. She's really struggling. She won't talk to anyone, won't leave her apartment. I don't know what happened between you two, but can you just talk to her?" I deleted the voicemail without responding. Sarah wasn't my problem anymore, but apparently, she wasn't done trying. A few nights later, I was sitting at home, enjoying the peace and quiet, when my phone buzzed again. "Sarah." I stared at the screen for a second before sighing and answering. "What do you want?" I said flatly. There was silence on the other end, then a shaky breath. I need to see you." I almost laughed. "For what? So you can try to explain? So you can cry and beg me to take you back?" "Not happening, Sarah." "Please," she whispered. "I just need to talk." I leaned back in my chair, rubbing my temple. "Sarah, you threw everything away. For what? A woman who didn't even want you in the end? You made your bed. Now you get to lie in it." She let out a choked sob. I know I screwed up. I lost you. I lost everything. I didn't say anything. "I miss you, Ben," she continued. "I miss us." "Yeah," I said coldly. "Did you miss me when you were sneaking around? Did you miss me when you were laughing at me with Amanda? When you were lying to my face?" "Please," she begged. "I just want a chance to make it right." I exhaled sharply. "There is no making it right. There's no fixing this, Sarah. We're done." Silence. Then, in the smallest voice, she asked, "Is there any part of you that still loves me?" That should have been a hard question. It wasn't. "No," I said simply. She let out a quiet, broken sob. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I felt nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Just nothing. "Goodbye, Sarah," I said, and I hung up. That was the final blow. The moment she realized, once and for all, that there was no coming back from this. That she had ruined everything. A year later, Sarah was nothing more than a bad memory. The divorce had been finalized months ago, and I had walked away clean. She got nothing. Not the house, not my money, not even a sliver of sympathy from the people who once called her a friend. She had burned everything to the ground. And now? She was the one left in the ashes. I heard things, of course. You don't spend almost a decade with someone without mutual friends filling in the blanks. Sarah had moved to a smaller apartment, barely making ends meet. No one wanted to be around her anymore. Amanda was long gone, having latched onto her next victim, leaving Sarah to deal with the mess on her own. She had traded a marriage for a fantasy, and when the fantasy collapsed, there was nothing left for her to hold on to. The last time I saw her, it was by accident. I was grabbing coffee when she walked in. She looked different. Not bad, just defeated. The kind of look someone has when they've lost more than they'll ever get back. She saw me, froze. For a second, I thought she might come over, try to talk, but she didn't. She just lowered her gaze, turned around, and walked right back out the door. And me? I took a sip of my coffee and smiled. Because for the first time in years, I was free. And damn, Did it feel good? Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. See you soon.